How strong is the jet gun really? How much damage can it do? How fast can it reload? Is it affected by speed cola, Vulnera Bean? And what in the world does pack-a-punching it even do? Well, I did the testing and I have the stats. And this is how the jet gun actually works. As always with these analytical videos, you could use the chapters below to skip to whatever section you're most interested in or to the end for the final results. The jet gun, as we all know, is currently only available on Liberty Falls. You could craft it through a side quest or get it straight from the box. And it has two firing methods, both with a cooldown/recharge rate. The normal firing mode is used to draw in all of the zombies. They will stumble and they will instantly die. However, if you use the alternate fire, the jet gun will release all of its energy in an explosion. But beyond that, what are the jet gun's exact stats? Well, luckily for you, I have them right here. Starting with the base jet gun, this is unpack-a-punch to the regular jet gun as you get it from the crafting table or straight from the mystery box. Using the primary firing mode, you are able to fire for 6.5 uninterrupted seconds. Now, if you use all of your ammo so that the jet gun hits 0, you will be forced to wait 19 seconds for what I'm calling the 0 cooldown time. From the second the jet gun hits 0, you have to wait 19 seconds before it begins recharging. Luckily, after that 19 seconds, the 0 recharge time is going to be very fast, coming in just a little tiny bit over a second. It's just a second. It's really fast. However, you do not need to fire for that entire 6.5 seconds. You can kind of just burst fire. There is the slightest bit of delay from firing and then this non-zero recharge rate I'm calling, but that delay is like a quarter of a second. It's nearly instantaneous. Not worth paying attention to, if you ask me. From that moment on, you will recharge your ammo, 4.4 ammos, whatever you want to call that, per second. Strangely enough, if you use the jet gun all the way down to like 1, 2, or 3 ammos left, this recharge rate is going to take longer than the 20 seconds you need to wait for this 0 cooldown time. But if you're not getting anywhere close to 0, then this recharge rate is always going to be faster. This draw damage is referring to the damage that you deal to enemies when they are being drawn in by the jet gun. Obviously, the jet gun, once the zombies reach the jet gun, they just instantly die. There's not even any damage numbers that I can measure, so I don't really know how much damage it's doing, if it's doing anything or if it's just infinite. Every time I've used this, it's just infinite damage. However, when they're being drawn in, the jet gun is dealing 2.5% of the round health. And this looks to be very similar to the Manglers. So when you're drawing in the Manglers with this primary firing mode, it looks like you're dealing 2.5% of their own damage with it. However, they have armor and stuff on, so it's really hard to test, but majority of the time you're using that 2.5% round health. And between you and me, I'm not super aware of the jet gun meta strategies, especially in the high rounds. So I don't know if that's a big deal of the Mangler damage or not, but it's not a lot of damage. What is a lot of damage is the alt fire damage. This is a static damage number, and at its base, you're dealing 2,835 damage. That is enough to one-shot zombies until round 21. That's a pretty good deal if you ask me. In terms of the range of that explosion that happens, ranges are pretty difficult to hand test here. These are hand-tested numbers, but the circle, the radius, appears to be 10 meters. So a 20-meter diameter, everything around you in a 10-meter radius, 20-meter diameter is going to instantly die. Well, zombies are going to instantly die before round 21. Walls and debris will affect this. So be sure you are as out in the open in the middle of zombies as you can be if you're going to utilize this, or if you're cornered, it's a great little backup safety weapon. The pull range, or the draw range, I should say, comes into play because of one of the jet gun's special secret abilities. It's not so secret. You could just pull in drops, you can pull in armor, stuff that fell on the ground, any sort of drops on the ground, or even power-ups that drop from zombies like max ammos, insta-kills, max armors, all that good stuff. That appears to have a 12-meter radius as well. However, that pull range is only where you are pointing the jet gun. And I do sincerely apologize. I have no idea how to test like angles in this game. So I know for a fact like a zombie can be hitting you kind of off to the side and the jet gun doesn't quite deal damage to him. But I have no idea how to even measure angles like that. So I apologize if I already guessed. It might be around like a 90-degree cone in front of your face, but that is a wild guess. And the same goes for this pull range. Like it's just what's directly in front of you, what you're aiming at. This Abomination and Mangler damage is going to be the alt fire damage. Again, I apologize if you guys are really interested invested in this draw damage, it's just nothing. It's basically useless, at least against the Abomination and the Manglers. The thing about the drawing or the primary firing mode of the jet gun is that it does stun Manglers for a decent amount of time. And you know what? I forgot to put in a thing here of how long it stuns the Manglers. It stuns the Manglers for about 3 seconds. It's a surprisingly long amount of time when you're actually in game, but when you're at a high round, those 3 seconds really go by fast. Anyway, back here talking about the alternate fire when you do that big explosion. With the base jet gun, you're going to deal 630 damage to Abominations plus 3 ticks of 3,750 damage. This is incredibly consistent. Manglers, on the other hand, you can do a one-time hit of 3,150 damage with 3 ticks of 3,750 damage. However, Manglers have armor. So a lot of the time, these two damage numbers are going to be wildly different. I believe most of the time, this tick damage is going to be, I think it's 1,500 damage because of the armor that they're wearing. I think if you take off their helmet / chest plate, I'm not entirely sure. There's some piece of armor that if you break, it will go past and it will deal this damage here. It took a while to test. Those Manglers were really annoying. It's not incredible. It's definitely not overpowered against the Abomination. This attack is not great against the Abomination. It's decent against the Mangler. As we rank up and Pack-a-Punch the jet gun, it is going to get better, but it's not like, hey, a Mangler's here, let me take out the jet gun and just destroy them. It can definitely help quite a bit, especially if you Pack-a-Punch early, but it's not like game breaking or anything. So what happens when you Pack-a-Punch the jet gun? What stats change? How much better does it get? Well, some interesting things happen. You can see Pack-a-Punching the jet gun surprisingly increases the amount of firing time that we have. This makes sense when thinking about what the Pack-a-Punch does. It increases our ammo, and even though the jet gun still only has 100 ammo, you're able to fire for an extra 2 seconds. And the 0 cooldown time is reduced to 16 seconds, and the non-zero recharge rate is increased to 5 ammo per second, which again, if you're using ammo all the way until the late teens, even single digits, this recharge rate is going to take longer than the 0 recharge rate, if that makes sense. The draw damage is the same, the alt fire range is the same, however, we do get an increase in damage. The alt fire explosion will now deal 10,125 health, which is a one-shot through round 30. Just for Pack-a-Punch 1, that's not too bad. We see a substantial increase in damage against the Abomination at 2,250 plus the 3 ticks of 3,750 damage. Huge increase against Manglers with 11,250, 3 ticks of the 3,750. Again, if you can get through their armor, if you need to finish off a Mangler, this can be very effective. Moving on to Pack-a-Punch 2. Do we get an increase in damage, an increase in firing time? Does anything happen? Well, you can see we have the same firing time and the same 0 cooldown time and the same non-zero recharge rate, which kind of makes sense. When you Pack-a-Punch your gun for a second time, it's not like you get an additional bit of ammo, but you will see we get a substantial increase in damage, that alt fire damage, that explosion damage going all the way up to 23,085, which is a one-shot through round 38. And then the Abomination damage is going to be 5,130 plus 3 ticks of that, again, 3,750 damage. I don't know what it is about this number, but they just love it. I don't know. If you manage to get past the armor of the Mangler, you will deal 25,650 damage plus the 3 ticks of the 3,750. And this is exactly what we see with the Pack-a-Punch 3 effect. You don't see an increase in recharge rate or quote-unquote ammo, but you will see a final damage of 67,500 health, which is easily a one-shot in the health cap. So that alternate fire, that explosion, if fully upgraded to Pack-a-Punch 3, you are going to get insta-kills with all of the regular zombies. I will say, armor on zombies will still negate this damage. And so, of course, that means I needed to test this out at health cap. And what do you know, even armored zombies are a one-shot with this damage. It's like Treyarch knows what they're doing. Anyway, moving on to the Abomination damage and the Mangler damage, this is where we start talking some good numbers here. The Abomination damage will deal 15,000 with that initial explosion and then the 3 ticks of the 3,750. Manglers get a 75,000 damage. Again, their armor will negate this and then the 3 ticks of that damage. So overall, Pack-a-Punching your jet gun early on is gonna be very, very worth it, especially with that alternate explosion against the Abominations and the Manglers, mainly the Manglers. But once you start reaching health cap, it starts playing kind of like, well, normal. But all of that was just the Pack-a-Punch effects. what happens when we add Speed Cola onto this? Because I think Speed Cola, you're going to help me reload faster. Perhaps it's going to increase, or I guess decrease and make faster these cooldown times and recharge times, right? Well, no, it doesn't. It does absolutely nothing with the jet gun. You still get 16 seconds, just like any other Pack-a-Punch. That non-zero recharge time is still just 1 second, and you're still only gaining 5 ammo per second. This is incredibly disappointing to me. I would love to see Speed Cola, especially like classic formula, paired up with this. There's so many cool things that augments can do, and the jet gun will replenish its ammo with max ammos, but it won't replenish ammos with the ammos dropped on the ground from either Vulture Raid or the regular special enemies. So having something like Speed Cola would have been really cool to see. However, what does work with the jet gun is Elemental Pop's Vulnera Bean. That's right, we get an even further damage from Pack-a-Punch 3 because this alternate fire explosion is fire damage, meaning that every time you use the alternate fire on the Abomination and Manglers, which are weak to fire damage, the Vulnera Bean will increase this number by, I think that's 15%, which results in Abominations taking 17,500 damage and increasing that secondary tick speed, not speed, that damage, and then the Manglers getting a whopping 87,500 damage, and then the 3 ticks of the 4735 damage. And I did put on Deadshot in this triple Pack-a-Punch thing. I just didn't think it was worth making a whole thing over. It doesn't do anything. It's because this damage isn't critical damage. Deadshot's not going to affect this at all. Now, for our results, this screen kind of speaks for itself. From the base jet gun, if you Pack-a-Punch it, you will get an increase in quote-unquote ammo, which is really just an increase in firing time and a little bit faster of the cooldown and recharge rate. However, further increasing your Pack-a-Punch level will not increase that. So it's kind of just like increasing your ammo the first time you Pack-a-Punch with any other regular gun. Further Pack-a-Punching your jet gun will increase the damage of the alternate fire. You're still going to deal the 2.5% round health to all the zombies while you're drawing him in with the primary fire, and you're still going to insta-kill them once they hit the jet gun. That is, of course, if they are normal zombies. The Manglers get stunned for about 3 seconds with that draw damage. Speed Cola, unfortunately, doesn't do anything to help the cooldown time. Vulnera Bean does increase the explosion damage, but just to the Abominations and the Manglers, because remember that alternate fire damage to regular zombies is, non-elemental. Or I guess I should say zombies aren't necessarily weak to fire damage, so it doesn't increase this number. Whereas the Abomination and the Manglers are weak to fire damage, and therefore Vulnera Bean makes them even more vulnerable to that fire damage. And I completely forgot to mention, I did try using the alternate fire while it wasn't at full ammo. So I would use the primary fire for a little bit, and then I would use the alternate fire explosion and see if there's any difference. The damage numbers are the same. The range appears to be the same. It is really difficult to get consistent tests with this because of how quickly the jet gun refills when it's that non-zero cooldown. But unless I missed something pretty monumental, it appears as though there is no downside to using the alternate fire on a lower ammo count. That feels wrong to me. That just doesn't feel right. But that's what my tests are telling me, so that's what I'm gonna tell you. So what did I inevitably miss about testing the jet gun? Do you guys like this format? I really want to dive into these wonder weapons and see what they can do. If you guys like this, I will 100% do this with the new wonder weapon or wonder weapons, who knows, we're getting for the Shattered Veil, which if I'm not mistaken, we should get a teaser trailer or a trailer today. Let me know your thoughts, and you might have missed one of my recent uploads. I uploaded a massive over hour-and-a-half video of me completing every single Easter egg in Black Ops 6 Zombies without any augments. It was much more difficult than I thought, but it was incredibly fun. Be sure to check it out here and stay beautiful.